Good day, everyone. Welcome to Nigeria History Vibes with Recent King, talking about wild things in Nigeria history. So today we'll be looking at an international relationship, not really kind of like international relationship per se, between a neighboring country. Yeah, just two countries away from us, Ghana. You will agree with me that there's a subtle tension expressed on social media banter between Nigeria and Ghana, talking about who cooks the best jollof, who got the best accent, who got the best chef, and stuff like that. And most times we just give ourselves basbos, once. But there's a subtle story behind this. And I guess you must have heard about the word, or everyone knows the bag. Ghana must go. Yeah, that red and blue bag. Before I go on, don't forget, if you are new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment whatever you think about this wild say after this. So let's dive into it. You've heard about the bag Ghana must go. Ghana must go. Is there no other name for the bag? I've done research and like before that incident, there was actually no name for that bag. And the name stuck to it from the 80s. So let's dive into it. So it was in the 70s. Nigeria was doing very perfectly well, like oil boom, money, pumping here and there. I know you heard about the song that they say, once upon a time, $1 is equals to one naira. But in 1973, 1974, 60 kobo was equals to $1. You're screaming! Yes, you can go and check it. That was like that was how we came about the name Giant of Africa. That was how we became Giant of Africa. Yes, we are the biggest oil exporting country in Africa. So Nigeria was doing perfectly well, and on the other hand, our cousin brother, the Ghanaians, the economy was in a kind of recession, and with the military coup, although Nigeria was also going through military regime, but with our oil, everywhere good, everything balanced, nothing they shake us. In the 60s, Ghana was actually the highest cocoa exporting nation in the world, but there was a cocoa crash in the later 60s that even the coup in 1966 that took out the Kwame Nkrumah government and brought the military regime in Ghana also affected them. So nothing was going well for Ghana. Ghanaians were fed up. The funny thing was that Nigerian recruiters who actually went to Ghana to give them jobs that Nigerians didn't wanted to do, like teaching jobs. So many artisans they came to Ghana, they flocked Nigeria, not just Ghanaians, many African immigrants, they flocked Nigeria in the 70s. They came for a better living, for a better life. This was as at the time that secondary schools, primary schools were mostly flocked with Ghanaian teachers. Nigeria was that good. It was the time that it was as if almost every family in Ghana had a relative in Nigeria. And things were going smoothly well. So they were looking for greener pastures. Just like the way today, almost every Nigeria have a relative, a cousin, brother, or something abroad, especially in the United Kingdom. That was how we were in the 70s. So many people came to Nigeria for a better living, and everywhere good, everywhere soft. Nigeria's economy was gigantic. Yeah, giant of Africa. And it was in the 80s. The demand for oil dropped. Big countries like Canada and United States that usually demand our oil, they were going through recession. And there was a crash. And as at 1982, the demand for our oil was low. And normal forces of demand and supply, you know what's up now? Our oil was now excess. So the price crashed. That oil price per barrel in 1982 actually was now around $27 thereabouts compared to 1980 that it was $37. So Nigeria was now going through its own economic recession. And don't forget, people have already left Ghana. People have already left other African nations to Nigeria to seek for greener pastures. But But yet, here we were now going through our own time. That as at 1982, preparing for 1983 election, leaders were now using it as a yardstick, saying if you because Nigerians were complaining then, they were like, Ghanaians have taken jobs from there. Nigerians had no more jobs and stuffs. Remember, I talked about the Udoji salary award. If you've not seen that video, you can go and check it. So as at this time, Nigeria already we already burnt out 90% of our financial reserves. It was that crazy. So people were now using this as a yardstick to say, okay, vote for us, we'll pursue Ghanaians away, we'll pursue the Ghanaians, and all of that. And 1983, President then, Shehu Shagari, January 17th, 1983, Baba announced that any undocumented immigrant in the country should leave. And he gave them only just 2 weeks. The deadline was actually 31st of January, 31st of January 1983. And they had to leave. That was how they had to source for that bag, that it was the most common bag they could lay their hands on, the most common, the most cheapest bag then that they could lay their hands on to pack all their stuffs and all of that. It was so crazy that the borders from Benin, Togo down to Lagos was gridlocked because even before the military leader then, Jerry Rawlings, he already announced that the border between Ghana and Togo should be shut because they didn't want anyone to overthrow them, because as at then it was just cool here and there. And Benin now blocked their own, Togo now blocked their own border with Benin because they didn't want the refugee to flock their own countries. But later on, the borders were open and even trucks were sent along the borders just to take Ghanaians back home. But in all of this, they never mentioned one thing. Although international bodies were angry with Nigeria, like why would they take such decision? Why would they do such to drive over 2 million immigrants, of which more than 50% were actually Ghanaians? They had to leave just 2 weeks that they were selling their stuffs for cheap. Of course, imagine just earlier this year there was actually a tension in America when President Trump was saying, he and Elon Musk were saying they were saying all illegal immigrants, they will drive them out of the United States. Yes, they won't took out the action. They were deporting people. Stuff like this have played out in Africa before now. You don't know. It's like history repeating itself. So stuff like this have actually played out. But they never told you something. They never told you that in 1969, Ghanaians were actually the first ones that pulled that stunt. Yes, Ghanaians pulled that stunt in 1969. Kofi Busa, the Prime Minister there of Ghana, he pulled that stunt. He drove over 2.5 million immigrants, of which more than 50% were Nigerians. So it was like a tit for tat. Yes, some of them actually saw it coming. They knew it was actually due. They knew that Nigeria was going to take a revenge. But I won't say it was like a revenge. We're actually going through our own. But the funny thing is that there's really no evidence that after chasing immigrants from this nation on both sides, the economy became better. The economy never became better. The economy never became better. It's just like leaders, failed leaders, using it as a yardstick for just populism. For populism. They're just using it as a yardstick for populism. Populist motion. Failures of leaders whip up nationalist movement against foreigners. And it was like a tit for tat. It was like, do me, I do you. And Ghanaians actually had to leave Nigeria, undocumented Ghanaians. But this was the craziest part. In 1985, the military leader then of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, Omo no be today Buhari dey show people shege o. Buhari came now and said all immigrants should leave, whether documented or not documented. And again, Ghanaians had to leave Nigeria again. This one now was no longer 1-1. It was not like 2-1, you dey owe me. So this story actually still linger in the hearts of Ghanaians. Although I know most present generation, the Gen Z, some although some actually still keep in touch with history, but most people don't really know this story. So they must have told them the story, and you know that kind of thing. It's like when your papa or your mama una get that kind of boy, like say una not really dey flow, they not go tell you say this person don't do me this thing, na bad person, but you dey observe them. So that I guess as stories have been passed down, and the present generation, not like they are vindictive of whatever banter that is playing between Nigeria and Ghana. I know we are brothers, we are neighboring countries, we are cousins. And it wasn't really about the immigrants. It wasn't really about when Nigerians were in Ghana that caused the crash of the economy. It wasn't really about when Ghanaians were in Nigeria that caused about the economy. But the difference between the Nigerian immigrants that were driven from Ghana back to Nigeria was that they were well-to-do traders compared to the immigrants that we drove out of Nigeria. Those ones were just teachers and artisans. Then they had to go back to start from the scratch. But the Ghana one, there was a kind of like a beef that, Nigerians, we are very, very, we have this kind of ginger, and it was as if, irrespective of the economy crashing as at then, Nigerians were doing better. And that kind of thing, like, oh, they just have to drive us, and they want some kind of unfair treatment. When I did my research, yes, some kind of unfair treatment that we were already receiving. And this was despite the economic community of West African states laws and agreement that they already put in place to allow for trade between such countries and even for movements within such African states. But on both leadership ends, they never looked at it. They were like, okay, cool. So it was crazy. It was crazy. And the funny thing is that to date, Nigerians never apologized to Ghana for what they did. And Ghana to never apologize to Nigeria. So there's still this tension, this, it's like, that kind of friendship. That before like say, una not really settle well, you still get me for mind, I still get you for mind. The relationship get how it dey once it dey come out, but we still good. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was just like, okay, let me do a video on it. So that's the story about you see come across the subtle banter here and there. Was it really that serious? Was it not serious? Are they still bad bloods? And this actually affected the Nigerian Ghana relationship over the years. And they still kind of subtle, sublime. You know what I'm saying? So, guys, that's it. Tell me what you think. So, guys, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. And watch out for our next episode on Ninja History Vibes with Racing King. Peace out.